everyone, and welcome to another video. This is for all of the stuff that I got in the second half of December. There's really not a lot here, but some stuff that I personally am very excited about, stuff that's very important to me. I didn't spend any money at end of year sales, Bright Stuff Christmas sale or Boxing Day sales or anything like that. So it's really sort of a small amount this month, but hopefully the quality of the items are of some interest to you guys. So rather than spend too long on this, I'm just going to go straight into it, and hopefully this video will be fairly short and sweet. So this, the first thing I got was actually a figure from Good Smile Company. This is an older figure. It was actually released in 2008, and it's of one of my personal favorite characters, one of my favorite female characters, and the figure itself is pretty highly regarded and highly sought after. It's very hard to find her in any sort of good condition for less than like 500 USD. So the fact that I found her in pretty much new condition for a fraction of that price, I was really happy. And that is the 1/8 Good Smile Company scale of Kino from Kino's Journey. So this is the main character from Kino's Journey, as I said. She was released, like I said, in 2008, and that was in a time where figures cost really probably half the price that they do currently cost. But Kino is quite small for 1/8 scale, but it is very reflective of the fact that she's like a 15-year-old girl. She's not, an adult or any sort of like large character, but she's done beautifully. I was so happy to finally find her. This was an item that I thought I would never have the opportunity to own. It was one of those things that, on your personal list of stuff, like unobtainable things that you would love to have, but really don't have any way to own. So like those unobtainable holy grails for the collection. And so she was one of those for me. And the fact that I'm now able to cross her off that list, I have her, and she's so beautiful and she's so wonderful, and I have this perfect spot for her, and she just is everything I could have ever dreamed. It's just been phenomenal. It was really the Christmas miracle and the Christmas gift to myself. So totally unplanned item and spending for me this month, but it was the sort of thing that I couldn't miss the opportunity. It was sort of a once in a lifetime thing for me, and I'm just so glad that I was able to finally own her. And this is something I've been wanting and looking for and searching for literally years, and it's just it's amazing. It truly was like the highlight of my month, finding her. Next is another figure, and this one is actually a new release, but one that was delayed quite a few times from his initial release, and that is QuezQ's release of Hazuki from Hazuki's Cool-Headedness. So he is again a 1/8 scale. He comes with a Shiro as well, the sort of demon hound from the show. If you're not familiar with this show, it's sort of it's a very dry humor comedy set in hell. He's sort of the administrator, and he keeps the Japanese hell running, basically, whilst King Enma is off doing other things. It's a very funny show. It's really my type of humor. But like I said, this particular release was delayed quite a bit over the course of the year, and every time he was delayed, the next sort of prototype, he'd come with something else. He'd have extra smoke. Ooh, or not his pipe. He always had his pipe, but his little ogre sort of bat, and then Shiro. It's just been very interesting sort of development watching this figure change and grow, and it's been actually quite exciting seeing like where he'd go from here. And he turned out beautifully. I'm so glad that he's just really perfect. He has pride of place on a specific shelf. I'm always one for these figures with sort of a yokai theme, and he's just wonderful. I'm so glad that I finally got him, even if it took an extra 6 to 8 months than was originally planned. I can't complain too much. Next is the anime, and these are both series that are, for me, sort of ones that I've been highly anticipating, again, for years. Both new releases, although neither of them are really the newest show. But first of all is the Blu-ray release of Hunter x Hunter 2011 from Viz. So this show is, of course, probably, as most of you know, the most recent adaptation of Yoshiro Togashi's Hunter x Hunter. And this is how I first got into the Hunter x Hunter franchise. And for many of you, you'll know that it is sort of my favorite shonen. It's definitely one of my favorite shows. I absolutely love the series. I watched this. I first got into the show by watching the first episode, the pretty much the day it came out, all the way back in October of 2011, and I watched it every week from then till when it finished, which was October 2014. So those 3 years of my life I put into the show. During that time, I watched the 1999 anime adaptation, as well as the various OVA series afterwards. I read all of the manga that was available at the time, and I watched it I introduced it to my sister and my mother. We watched it every week together, and I introduced it to my two best friends after sort of later in its run, so they had a good 80, 90 episodes to catch up on, and they never caught up with it, but they both finished it since. And now one of them is sort of getting her husband to watch it. It's a series that really was a part of my life for a very long time, and it was one that a lot of people were quite bewildered why it was never licensed, and it didn't get licensed until several years after it finished. So the fact that we finally get it now, I'm just super happy. It's the sort of thing that I've wanted. I can now say that I am finally able to buy Hunter x Hunter 2011 and watch it whenever I want, relive sort of the great story that is this show. I've already seen it like 4 times the entire way through, but it's the sort of show that I can rewatch again and again and again and again and again, and it still is amazing. I'm still in awe at the level of writing, at the amount of love that Madhouse put into the series. I haven't really seen any of the dub, but I am particularly fond of Megumi Han and Maria Issei's performances in this as Gon and Killua respectively, but Miyuki Sawashiro, Keiji Fujiwara, Daisuke Namikawa, Mamoru Miyano, just everyone in this show is wonderful. It means a lot to me, and I'm so glad that I was finally able to own this series. And I look forward to picking it up in the next, year and a bit probably, for the next 12, 13 sets that will be coming out. And next is the other anime series I got. This is a DVD release, again, of a series that went unlicensed for a very long time. This one, kind of more understandably why it went unlicensed for so long, but that is Nozomi Entertainment's release of Big Windup Season 2, or Ofuri Season 2. This is the second season of Big Windup. Or the first season was released by Funimation years and years ago. It bombed horrifically for them. It didn't make any money for them. I think they sold like around 500 copies initially, and I think it was a mix of really bad timing on their part, the way they were changing their actual releases, how things were being released, and as well as the bad marketing. And at the time, sports series were nowhere near as popular as they are today. We didn't have the sorts of shows that had cross gender appeal like Kuroko and Haikyuu and Free and Yomoshi Pedal and Ace of Diamond, and the millions of sports series that captured the hearts and imaginations of fans in English speaking countries and outside of Japan, like we do today. This is really sort of badly timed. It really didn't have a chance, but the show itself is great. I personally love it. I think it's certainly unlike a lot of other sports series. The main character in particular is very, very different from the general sort of shonen protagonist who's really self-assured and wants to be the best and has all this talent but no common sense and that sort of thing. Mahashi is really not that character at all. All the rest of the team are funny, likable kids, and it's really good. I really loved it. Like I said, it was the first sports show I ever saw. It was the first sports show I ever owned, and I'm so glad that in some way we got this second season in a physical release, because really it was one of those things that most people thought would never have a chance to be released in the US just because it did so poorly the first time around. But I'm so glad. This show definitely deserves the watch. I think the first season's on Funimation's YouTube channel. I think so. That's the first place I watched it, that's a legal way to watch it. I don't know if they actually post that sort of stuff on YouTube anymore. This was years ago. I don't know. Things change. But it's available, through the save line in Funimation. Great show. Definitely try it if you're a fan of sort of the modern sports shows. Things like Haikyuu, or baseball anime sort of in general. It's really solid show. It's fun. It's really good. And I'm so glad that we finally get this second season in some sort of physical release. We've got Mahashi on the first disc, and Tajima looks like on the second disc, and Abe on the third disc. This season is only 13 episodes long. The first season is 25, so about half the amount, but still solid. Still good. That one covers the summer tournament, I think. Anyway, next is the manga. This first manga release is actually the debut volume, so the first volume of the new spin-off series, Gangsta Cursed, EP Marco on Adriano. I keep forgetting. This is probably a volume that majority of people are getting. It's a spin-off of Kosuke's Gangsta, also written by Kosuke, but art by Shuhei Kamo. Marco is one of the more interesting side characters in Gangsta, and this is a prequel to the series before he's the character we know within the main story. This is several years ago, at least 10 years ago. This is set several years before the story, at least 10, and kind of explores Marco as this character who hunts um, hunts the tags rather than like is part of the, you know, force to protect tags and people who care about them like he is in the main story. It's very interesting. I highly recommend it. The art and action is great. Pretty solid story. It's very intriguing. Of course, you know what the end point is, but you're still interested to see how a character changes so much. So I'm really looking forward to future volumes of this. And yeah, it's really solid. I'm really glad that that we're getting that. And the other manga I got for this month, or this second half of the month, is Fruits Basket Volume 8. This is, of course, the collector's edition from Yen Press. Exactly what you expect, just like every other month that I've picked up these volumes. And this collects volumes 15 and 16. So we are officially 2/3 of the way through this series. There's going to be 12 volumes in all, so only 4 volumes left after this. And this series is great. I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it yet or read it yet. And for fans of who already are know of this series, I definitely this release is great. The new translation is fantastic. The color pages, all the extras are really good. But just being able to reread the story, it holds up phenomenally. I've said already before, but it's just great. I really love it, and I'm just so glad that we, that such a highly respected and well-known series is getting sort of the release it deserves, especially considering that Tokyo Pop's release has been out of print for years and years and years at this point. It's just great that sort of a classic series is once again available for everyone. And finally, for this month, is actually a light novel. One of my, again, another favorite of mine, and this is a light novel series that I am the most excited about currently being released. There's other series I'm following as well, but this one is, no matter what, like as soon as I get it, I sit down and read it and finish it and love life. And that is Bakuno by Ryogo Narita, the same author who is who writes Durara. Probably Durara is the more popular of the series, his series in English, but Bakuno is by far the better work in my opinion. Set in the 1930s Prohibition era United States. It has gangsters and mob fighting and alchemy and immortality and all crazy things, and I'm pretty sure later on in later volumes there's vampires and there's demons or the devil in these volumes, and it's great. It's phenomenal. I started with this series, of course, through the anime several years ago. This book in particular is the second half, or covers sort of the other side of the story for the Flying Pussyfoot saga. So if you've seen the show, you kind of know what I'm talking about. The book itself is subtitled 1931, The Grand Punk Railroad Express. The second book is The Grand Punk Railroad Local. So it's the same story but told from different characters' perspectives. In this volume, it focuses much more on Claire, Chane, and Ches, who are all characters on the front there. Whereas the last volume focused much more on Jacuzzi and his friends, sort of Goose and the Black Suits, and then kind of Isaac and Miria. This volume also has a lot of Rebecca, who is the reporter in the series, or one of the reporters in the series. And both volumes have Lad's story in it. This has the second half, sort of what happens with his character after like he sort of disappears from the first volume. And this was great. I love it. It focuses a lot on my favorite character, one of my favorite characters of the series, which is Claire. He is phenomenal. I'm normally not the type to enjoy his sort of character, but he's so likable. He's so damn likable. You can't not love that guy. I cannot wait for more of these books because the next volume will be the last that was adapted into the anime, and then it's new stuff. And I'm so excited because Baccano for years and years and years has been one of those shows that I've always wanted like more of. And unlike Durara, it never really had the international popularity that it did. Even within Japan, Durara was always much more popular. So, whilst I do enjoy Durarara, and I'm so glad that we did sort of get a full adaptation of that in animated form, I would kill for more Baccano. It was just such a good show. And the dub was phenomenal. I've seen it both Japanese and English dubbed. And the American setting, the dub works so much better for me. And it was really good. Funimation did a really good job on the dub. It's just a great show, and it's a great series. The writing is fun, punchy. The narrator in the series is totally over Isaac and Miria's shenanigans. It's pithy and just wonderful. I'm so glad that Yen gave such a lovely release to the series. It's hardcover. This is the shortest of the books so far, which makes sense because it's covering events that were already covered and really only gives like 2 or 3 other viewpoints from it. So it makes sense that it's sort of the shortest of the series so far. But it's just wonderful. If you couldn't tell, I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of the series. I'm so glad that Yen has done such a wonderful translation, done such a wonderful release, and that we are given a legal way to, or an official way to support this series, because Baccano is honestly one of the most entertaining, fun, sort of crazy series I've had the pleasure of enjoying for a long time. It's one of those series that I can go back to and rewatch or reread and always enjoy myself. In fact, when the second book came out, I was so inspired by it that I did watch the entire show again. It's really fun. It's really fun, especially the flying pussyfoot stuff. This volume and the previous volume, the transcontinental flying pussyfoot, the shenanigans on a train, and terrorism, and bombs, and ransom, and just blatant murder. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. If you like sort of the 1930s time period, like the mob and prohibition and just all that sort of stuff, you will love this series, especially in the 1930s, like New York setting. It's great. It's phenomenal. Highly recommended. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about it because I could literally talk all day about Baccano. But that was everything that I got for this second half of the month. All things that I'm sure you can tell that I am hugely excited about. Very, very happy to own and support and just have it. I'm sure I have the sort of probably the smallest update video out of like all of the people who do update videos, especially for this time of year because of all the sales in the US and everything else. but I'm glad. I'm glad that I got what I got and that it's just perfect. It's phenomenal. I had a great end of the year after such an awful year just generally, not for me necessarily, and not for the collection, but it was a good after the stress of this year. It's nice to have something in your life to be happy about. And for me it's this stuff, and I can't knock that. That's just my personal opinion and my personal way. I sort of reward myself for surviving 2016. And yeah, I like I've said many times before, I definitely condone supporting the series you care about and all of these things, like I've explained ad nauseum through this video, which has made it probably twice as long as it should be. These are all things that I have very strong personal feelings for and really, really, really love. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Simply G, or G if you wish, whichever you want to use. I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Bye till then.